The grand ballroom sparkled with crystal chandeliers as hundreds of guests gathered for the most important royal event of the year. Camilla stood at the entrance, her emerald gown flowing behind her like a river of silk. She had waited decades for this moment. Tonight she would finally be recognized as the true queen consort, not just in name but in the hearts of the people. For years, Camilla had worked tirelessly to win over a nation that once viewed her with suspicion. She attended countless charity events, supported causes close to her heart, and slowly but surely began to change public opinion. The polls showed her approval ratings climbing month by month. Royal experts praised her dedication and genuine care for the people. Tonight's gala was meant to be her crowning achievement, a celebration of her journey from controversial figure to beloved royal. Catherine stood quietly in the corner, watching the scene unfold. She wore a simple navy dress that somehow made her shine brighter than anyone else in the room. While Camilla commanded attention with her bold presence, Catherine drew people in with her natural grace and warmth. She didn't need to announce herself. Her very presence spoke volumes. The evening began perfectly for Camilla. Dignitaries approached her with warm smiles and genuine compliments. The Prime Minister spoke glowingly of her charitable work. Foreign ambassadors praised her diplomatic efforts. She felt the weight of years of hard work finally paying off. This was her moment to shine, to show the world that she truly deserved to wear the crown. But across the room, something different was happening. A small group had formed around Catherine, not because she sought attention, but because people were naturally drawn to her. A young veteran approached her, sharing his story of recovery. She listened intently, asking thoughtful questions and offering genuine encouragement. Her eyes never wandered to the cameras or other guests. She was completely present in each conversation. Word spread quietly through the ballroom about Catherine's interaction with the veteran. Then came whispers about how she had personally helped a struggling family, whose story she had heard about weeks earlier. People began to remember her countless acts of kindness that never made headlines. Unlike the grand gestures and photo opportunities that often defined royal charity work, Catherine's compassion was personal, direct, and real. Camilla noticed the shift in energy but continued with her planned schedule. She delivered her prepared speech flawlessly, highlighting her achievements and future plans. The applause was polite and appropriate. She smiled graciously as photographers captured every angle. Everything was going according to plan, yet something felt different in the air. The first sign of trouble came when the mayor of a small town approached Catherine instead of Camilla during the receiving line. He had traveled hundreds of miles specifically to thank Catherine for her personal intervention in a local crisis that had received no media coverage. His genuine gratitude was impossible to miss, and other guests began to take notice. As the evening progressed, more stories emerged about Catherine's quiet acts of service. A teacher spoke about how Catherine had personally funded her classroom supplies after hearing about budget cuts. A homeless shelter director shared how Catherine had visited regularly, not for photo opportunities but to actually help serve meals and talk with residents. Each story was small on its own, but together they painted a picture of someone who truly understood what it meant to serve. Camilla felt the atmosphere in the room changing, though she couldn't quite put her finger on why. The conversations around her remained polite and respectful, but there was an undeniable shift in energy. People's eyes seemed to drift toward the corner where Catherine stood, still engaged in deep conversation with ordinary citizens who had somehow found their way to this royal gathering. The evening that was supposed to cement Camilla's place in royal history was slowly becoming something entirely different, not through any dramatic confrontation or public scene, but through the quiet power of authentic connection. Catherine hadn't said a word against Camilla, hadn't made any grand speeches or bold gestures. She had simply been herself, and that was proving to be more powerful than any carefully orchestrated campaign. As the first part of this remarkable evening came to a close, Camilla stood surrounded by all the trappings of royal success, yet she could feel something slipping away from her grasp, something that couldn't be won through effort or strategy, but only through the genuine connection that seemed to flow so naturally from the woman in the simple navy dress across the room. The second hour of the gala brought unexpected challenges that would test both women in ways they never anticipated. A young girl, no more than 8 years old, had somehow wandered away from her mother during the event. The child stood in the middle of the grand ballroom, tears streaming down her face as hundreds of elaborately dressed adults towered above her. Camilla noticed the commotion first. Her years of royal training kicked in immediately. She approached the situation with the practiced efficiency of someone accustomed to handling unexpected moments during public events. Her security team moved to manage the crowd, and she began the process of locating the child's parents through proper channels. It was textbook royal crisis management, designed to minimize disruption and maintain the dignity of the occasion. Catherine saw the little girl at almost the same moment, but her response was entirely different. Without hesitation, she knelt down on the marble floor, bringing herself to the child's eye level. Her expensive dress pooled around her as she reached out gently, speaking in soft tones that only the little girl could hear. The formal protocols and watching crowds seemed to disappear as Catherine focused entirely on comforting a frightened child. The contrast between their approaches was striking, though neither woman was aware of how their different responses were being perceived by the watching guests. Camilla worked efficiently through established systems, coordinating with security and staff to resolve the situation quickly and professionally. Her method was effective and appropriate for someone in her position, demonstrating her understanding of royal procedures and responsibilities. Meanwhile, Catherine had somehow produced a small toy from her purse, a tiny stuffed elephant that she always carried for moments just like this. She showed the child how the elephant's ears moved, making gentle whooshing sounds that brought the first smile to the little girl's face. Within minutes, she had the child giggling and had completely forgotten about the crowd of important people surrounding them. The little girl's mother finally appeared, rushing through the crowd in a state of panic. She had been frantically searching every corner of the building, terrified that her daughter had somehow left the venue entirely. When she saw her child safe and laughing with Catherine, her relief was overwhelming. Tears of gratitude flowed as she thanked Catherine repeatedly. But what struck everyone watching was Catherine's response. Instead of accepting praise for her kindness, Catherine immediately shifted attention to the mother, asking if she was okay and making sure she felt comfortable staying at the event. She learned that the woman was a nurse who had been invited to recognize her work during the pandemic, but felt out of place among all the wealthy and powerful guests. Catherine spent the next 20 minutes introducing the nurse to other healthcare workers at the event, creating an instant support network. Camilla watched this interaction with growing unease. She had handled the crisis correctly according to royal protocol, but she could see that Catherine's approach had created something much more meaningful. The simple act of kneeling down to comfort a child had somehow transformed into a moment that showcased everything people hoped to see in their future queen: genuine compassion, natural instinct for connection, and the ability to make anyone feel valued and important. The ripple effects continued throughout the ballroom. Guests who had witnessed the interaction began sharing their own stories about Catherine's personal touches during previous events. A businessman recalled how she had remembered his daughter's name from a brief conversation months earlier. A charity worker described how Catherine had quietly increased funding for their program without any public announcement. What made these stories particularly powerful was their authenticity. Unlike carefully planned charitable initiatives that were designed for maximum public impact, these were spontaneous acts of kindness that had never been intended for public consumption. They revealed a pattern of behavior that couldn't be manufactured or taught, a natural inclination toward service that came from genuine care rather than duty. Camilla found herself in an increasingly difficult position. Every attempt to redirect attention back to the evening's planned agenda seemed to highlight the difference between official royal business and authentic personal connection. Her speeches were polished and well received, but they felt formal and distant compared to Catherine's natural interactions with guests. The evening's planned entertainment proceeded on schedule, but the real drama was happening in the quiet conversations taking place throughout the ballroom. Word was spreading about Catherine's handling of the lost child situation, and with it came a flood of other stories that painted a picture of someone who understood that true royalty wasn't about titles or ceremonies, but about service to others. As the second part of the evening drew to a close, Camilla realized she was facing something she had never encountered before in her long journey to acceptance: competition from someone who wasn't even trying to compete. Catherine's power came not from ambition or strategy, but from the simple authenticity that made people feel seen and valued in her presence. The third phase of the evening brought an unexpected guest who would change everything. Sir David Mitchell, the most respected royal correspondent in the country, arrived later than planned due to a delayed flight. His presence at any royal event was significant, but tonight his arrival would prove to be a turning point that neither Camilla nor Catherine could have anticipated. Sir David had covered the royal family for over 30 years. He had witnessed Diana's rise and tragic fall, documented Charles and Camilla's long journey to acceptance, and watched William and Catherine navigate their way into the hearts of the nation. His opinions carried enormous weight with both the public and the palace, making his observations tonight particularly crucial for both women. Camilla greeted Sir David personally, as was appropriate for someone of his stature. They had worked together many times over the years, and he had been instrumental in helping to reshape her public image. She walked him through the evening's highlights, pointing out the successful turnout and the positive response to her initiatives. Her presentation was professional and comprehensive, exactly what years of experience had taught her to provide. Sir David listened politely, but his trained eye was already scanning the room, picking up on subtleties that others might miss. He noticed the energy patterns, the way conversations flowed, and the subtle body language that revealed what people really thought beyond their polite public personas. What he observed troubled him, though he kept his concerns to himself for the moment. The veteran journalist's attention was drawn to a commotion near the refreshment area. Catherine was speaking with an elderly man who appeared to be in some distress. Sir David moved closer, his reporter's instincts telling him this interaction might be significant. What he witnessed would later be described as a masterclass in compassionate leadership. The elderly gentleman was Albert Henderson, a 90-year-old war veteran who had been invited to represent his generation's service to the country. During the evening, he had become overwhelmed by the crowd and formal atmosphere, triggering memories of anxiety that had plagued him since his war service. He sat alone at a corner table trying to collect himself while hoping no one would notice his discomfort. Catherine had spotted Albert's distress immediately. She approached him not with the formal concern of a royal duty, but with the gentle care of someone who genuinely understood human suffering. She sat beside him quietly, not rushing to speak or offer quick solutions, but simply providing a calming presence while he regained his composure. Sir David watched in fascination as Catherine engaged Albert in conversation about his wartime experiences. She didn't ask the usual polite questions about his service that most royals would pose for photos and headlines. Instead, she asked about his life after the war, his family, his struggles with adjustment, and his journey toward healing. Her questions revealed a deep understanding of veteran issues that went far beyond surface-level royal briefings. What impressed Sir David most was Catherine's response when Albert began to share difficult memories. She didn't change the subject or redirect toward more comfortable topics as protocol might suggest. Instead, she listened with complete attention, occasionally sharing relevant insights that showed she had taken time to truly understand the ongoing challenges faced by veterans of Albert's generation. The conversation revealed something remarkable about Catherine's preparation for royal duties. While other royals might receive briefings about events and statistics, Catherine had clearly spent time learning about the real human experiences behind the issues she encountered. Her knowledge wasn't academic. It was personal and practical, gained through genuine engagement with people affected by the problems she hoped to address. Albert's transformation during their conversation was visible to everyone nearby. The anxiety and discomfort that had overwhelmed him gradually melted away as he found himself in the presence of someone who truly understood and valued his experience. By the end of their talk, he was sitting straighter, smiling and engaging with other guests at his table. Sir David realized he was witnessing something that couldn't be taught or scripted. Catherine's interaction with Albert wasn't part of any planned agenda or photo opportunity. It was a spontaneous response to human need that revealed character traits essential for effective leadership: empathy, patience, genuine curiosity about others, and the ability to create safe spaces for people to share their true experiences. The veteran journalist began to understand why the energy in the room had shifted so dramatically during the evening. While Camilla had delivered exactly what was expected from a royal event, Catherine had demonstrated something much more rare and valuable: the natural instincts of someone born to serve others rather than be served by them. As Sir David continued to observe throughout the evening, he saw pattern after pattern of the same behavior. Catherine didn't just attend the event. She transformed it through her presence. She didn't just meet people. She connected with them in ways that left lasting impressions. She didn't just fulfill royal duties. She elevated them through authentic care and attention. The implications of what he was witnessing began to dawn on Sir David. He was watching the emergence of a leader whose power came not from position or protocol, but from the much more enduring foundation of genuine human connection. This was the kind of royal presence that could shape the monarchy for generations to come. The fourth hour of the gala brought an unexpected crisis that would test both women's leadership abilities in front of the most influential people in the country. A server carrying a tray of champagne glasses stumbled near the main stage, sending crystal shards and expensive champagne across the marble floor. The accident happened just as the evening's most important speech was about to begin, creating chaos at the worst possible moment. The young server, Maria Santos, stood frozen in horror as hundreds of eyes turned toward her. She was a university student working part-time to pay for her education, and this job was crucial for her family's financial stability. The cost of the broken glasses alone represented more money than she earned in a month, and the embarrassment of disrupting such an important event was overwhelming. Camilla's response was swift and professional. She immediately signaled to the event coordinators to begin cleanup procedures while maintaining the evening's schedule. Her priority was minimizing disruption to the planned program and ensuring that the important guests weren't inconvenienced by the accident. Security personnel moved quickly to cordon off the area and redirect foot traffic around the mess. The cleanup crew arrived within minutes, efficiently removing the broken glass and mopping up the spilled champagne. Camilla spoke briefly with the catering manager to ensure that Maria would be handled appropriately, meaning she would likely be quietly dismissed to avoid any further incidents. It was standard protocol for high-profile events, designed to maintain smooth operations and prevent additional problems. Catherine witnessed the accident from across the room and immediately recognized the deeper human crisis unfolding beyond the practical cleanup concerns. While others focused on the broken glass and disrupted schedule, she saw a young woman facing potential job loss and public humiliation through no fault of her own. Without hesitation, Catherine made her way through the crowd toward Maria. The scene that followed would be remembered by everyone who witnessed it. Catherine reached Maria just as the girl was being escorted toward the service exit by security personnel. Instead of allowing the quiet removal to proceed, Catherine gently asked to speak with Maria privately. Her intervention wasn't dramatic or attention-seeking. It was simply the natural response of someone who recognized another person in distress. Catherine learned that Maria was studying medicine while supporting her younger siblings after their father's recent illness had left the family struggling financially. The server job was one of 3 part-time positions Maria held while maintaining excellent grades in her challenging academic program. Losing this income would force her to choose between her education and her family's immediate needs. What happened next surprised everyone, including the event organizers and security personnel. Catherine didn't just offer sympathy or empty reassurance. She took immediate action to address the situation practically and comprehensively. First, she personally covered the cost of the broken glasses, ensuring that Maria wouldn't face any financial penalty for the accident. But Catherine's response went far beyond simply solving the immediate problem. She recognized that Maria represented thousands of young people struggling to balance education with family responsibilities and financial pressures. Rather than treating this as an isolated incident, Catherine saw an opportunity to address broader issues of educational access and support for students from working families. Catherine arranged for Maria to be introduced to the head of a medical scholarship foundation who was attending the gala. Within an hour, what had started as a potential disaster for Maria had transformed into a life-changing opportunity. The scholarship would cover her remaining educational expenses and provide mentorship opportunities with established medical professionals. The ripple effects of Catherine's intervention spread throughout the ballroom as word of her actions circulated among the guests. People began to understand that they were witnessing something remarkable, a leader who could see beyond immediate appearances to recognize underlying human needs and respond with both compassion and practical solutions. Sir David Mitchell watched the entire sequence unfold with growing amazement. In his 30 years of covering royal events, he had never seen a member of the royal family transform a crisis into an opportunity for meaningful positive change so quickly and naturally. Catherine's response revealed leadership, qualities that went far beyond ceremonial duties or charitable photo opportunities. The contrast with standard royal protocol was striking but not necessarily critical of Camilla's approach. Both women had responded appropriately according to their understanding of their roles and responsibilities. However, Catherine's response revealed a different vision of what royal leadership could accomplish when combined with genuine empathy and quick thinking. The Medical Scholarship Foundation head later described his conversation with Catherine as one of the most impressive discussions he had ever had with a royal family member. Her questions about educational barriers facing working-class students revealed a sophisticated understanding of systemic issues that most people in her position never encountered or considered. As news of Maria's scholarship spread through the ballroom, guests began to recognize that they had witnessed something unprecedented. A routine accident had been transformed into a moment that demonstrated the power of leadership, rooted in genuine care for others. The evening that had begun as Camilla's celebration was increasingly becoming a showcase for Catherine's natural ability to inspire and create positive change. By the end of the 4th hour, the balance of power in the room had shifted dramatically. While Camilla maintained her official position and continued to fulfill her planned duties effectively, Catherine had demonstrated a different kind of royal presence that resonated more deeply with everyone present. The 5th phase of the evening brought an unexpected moment that would crystallize everything that had been building throughout the night. The Prime Minister approached the podium to deliver remarks that were supposed to focus on Camilla's contributions to the nation, but his speech would take a surprising turn that no one had anticipated. The Prime Minister began his prepared remarks praising Camilla's dedication and service over the years. His words were genuine and well-deserved, highlighting her work with literacy programs, domestic violence awareness, and her support for military families. The applause was warm and appreciative as he detailed her numerous accomplishments and the positive changes she had helped bring about. However, midway through his speech, the Prime Minister deviated from his prepared text. He had been deeply moved by what he had witnessed throughout the evening, particularly the interactions involving Catherine, that had created such a positive atmosphere among the guests. His political instincts told him that something significant was happening that deserved recognition. The Prime Minister began to speak about the importance of authentic leadership and the power of genuine human connection in public service. While he didn't mention Catherine by name initially, everyone in the room understood exactly what he was referencing. His words about leaders who inspire through actions rather than positions resonated powerfully with the audience. Camilla stood graciously during the speech, maintaining her composure even as she realized that her evening of celebration was being overshadowed by subtle but unmistakable praise for Catherine's approach to royal duties. Her years of experience in public life served her well as she continued to smile and acknowledge the Prime Minister's remarks with appropriate dignity. The turning point came when the Prime Minister directly addressed the evening's events. He spoke about witnessing moments of spontaneous compassion and natural leadership that reminded him why public service existed in the first place. His description of the lost child situation, the veterans' comfort, and Maria's scholarship opportunity painted a picture of leadership that transcended traditional royal protocols. Then came the moment that would be remembered as the unofficial passing of the torch. The Prime Minister invited Catherine to join him at the podium, not to give a formal speech, but simply to be recognized for the positive impact she had created throughout the evening. The invitation was unexpected and not part of any planned program. Catherine's response was characteristically gracious and humble. She approached the podium with obvious reluctance, clearly uncomfortable with being singled out for recognition. When she reached the microphone, she immediately redirected attention away from herself and toward the people she had met during the evening. Albert the veteran, Maria the student, the nurse and her daughter, and all the others whose stories had touched her. Her brief remarks focused entirely on the privilege of meeting such remarkable people and learning from their experiences. She spoke about Albert's wisdom, Maria's determination, and the countless unnamed heroes who worked tirelessly to serve others without recognition. Her words were simple and unscripted, but they carried an authenticity that resonated throughout the ballroom. The audience's response was immediate and overwhelming. The applause began slowly but built to a sustained ovation that lasted several minutes. People weren't just clapping politely for a royal family member. They were responding to someone who had demonstrated the kind of leadership they longed to see in their public figures. Sir David Mitchell observed the crowd's reaction with professional fascination. He could see that something historic was happening, though it wasn't being announced or declared formally. The symbolic transfer of public affection and respect was taking place through the organic response of hundreds of influential people who had witnessed authentic leadership in action. Camilla joined the applause graciously, understanding that the evening had evolved beyond anything she could have planned or controlled. Her decades of experience had taught her to recognize moments when grace and dignity were more important than personal disappointment. She applauded Catherine's recognition while maintaining the poise that had served her throughout her royal journey. The most remarkable aspect of the entire sequence was Catherine's obvious discomfort with the attention. Unlike politicians or celebrities who might have seized such a moment for personal advancement, Catherine seemed genuinely puzzled by the focus on her actions. Her questions to the Prime Minister revealed that she truly didn't understand why simple human kindness was being treated as exceptional. This authentic humility only strengthened the audience's response. They were witnessing someone who embodied the servant leadership ideal that many talked about, but few actually demonstrated. Catherine's power came not from seeking recognition or building her profile, but from the natural consequences of treating every person she met as valuable and worthy of respect. As the formal portion of the evening concluded, the unofficial consensus was clear. While Camilla remained the queen consort with all the official recognition and respect that position deserved, Catherine had emerged as the emotional and spiritual leader that people wanted to follow. The crown of public affection had shifted, not through any dramatic confrontation, but through the simple power of authentic character demonstrated consistently throughout one remarkable evening. The sixth hour of the gala brought private conversations that would reveal the true depth of what had transpired during this extraordinary evening. As the formal program concluded and guests began to mingle more freely, the real impact of the night's events became clear through the intimate discussions taking place. Throughout the ballroom, Sir David Mitchell found himself surrounded by other journalists and political figures, all trying to process what they had witnessed. The veteran correspondent had covered countless royal events, but none had generated the kind of organic emotional response that had emerged tonight. His colleagues were already discussing how to report on an evening that had fundamentally shifted perceptions without any dramatic announcements or official declarations. The conversation among the media representatives revealed just how unprecedented the evening had been. Royal events typically followed predictable patterns with carefully managed outcomes, but tonight had evolved beyond anyone's control into something genuinely spontaneous and meaningful. The challenge now was how to convey the significance of subtle moments and authentic interactions that couldn't be captured in traditional headlines. Meanwhile, political leaders were having their own intense discussions about the implications of what they had observed. Several members of Parliament spoke quietly about Catherine's natural ability to connect with people across all social and economic boundaries. Her interactions had demonstrated exactly the kind of leadership qualities that could help bridge the growing divides in modern society. The foreign ambassadors present offered particularly interesting perspectives, having observed royal families and political leaders from around the world. Their unanimous assessment was that Catherine possessed rare qualities that combined genuine compassion with practical intelligence, creating a form of soft power that could be tremendously valuable for the country's international relationships. Camilla navigated these conversations with remarkable grace, accepting congratulations for a successful event while clearly understanding that the evening's narrative had evolved beyond her original intentions. Her responses to questions about Catherine's emerging prominence were diplomatically perfect, praising her daughter-in-law's natural gifts while maintaining her own dignity and position. The most revealing conversations were taking place among the ordinary citizens who had been invited to represent various sectors of society. These guests had no political or social obligations to maintain diplomatic facades, and their honest reactions provided the clearest insight into the evening's true impact on public opinion. A teacher from Manchester spoke emotionally about how Catherine's interaction with Maria had given her hope for the future of education in the country. She saw in Catherine someone who understood that individual stories represented broader systemic challenges that required both compassion and practical solutions. The teacher's enthusiasm was shared by dozens of other educators present who felt that their concerns were finally understood at the highest levels. Healthcare workers were equally impressed by Catherine's conversation with the veteran Albert. Her questions had revealed a sophisticated understanding of mental health issues and veteran care that went far beyond surface-level royal briefings. Nurses and doctors at the event found themselves discussing how Catherine's approach could help reduce stigma around mental health services and encourage more veterans to seek help. The business leaders present offered perhaps the most surprising perspective. They had expected to be impressed by royal protocol and traditional ceremonies, but instead found themselves energized by Catherine's practical approach to problem-solving and her ability to connect people with resources and opportunities. Several mentioned plans to expand their own scholarship and mentorship programs, inspired by what they had witnessed. Young people at the event were particularly vocal in their admiration for Catherine's natural style. Unlike the formal distance that often characterized royal interactions, Catherine had demonstrated an ability to relate to people of all ages without seeming artificial or condescending. Her conversation with the lost child and her response to Maria's situation had shown them a model of leadership that felt relevant and inspiring. The charitable organization representatives present were already discussing how to invite Catherine's involvement in their causes, not for ceremonial appearances but for genuine engagement that could create meaningful change. They had seen her ability to transform individual encounters into broader opportunities for positive impact. Exactly the kind of leadership their organizations needed. Perhaps most significantly, the military veterans present had formed an informal group around Albert, sharing their own stories and discussing how Catherine's approach had made them feel truly heard and valued. Their conversation revealed that her interaction with Albert had addressed deeper issues of recognition and respect that many veterans struggled with in civilian society. As these various conversations continued throughout the ballroom, a clear consensus emerged among guests from all backgrounds and perspectives. They had witnessed the emergence of a leader whose power came not from position or protocol, but from authentic character and genuine care for others. The evening had demonstrated that true royal leadership could still inspire and unite people when it was rooted in real human connection. The transformation was so complete that many guests began referring to Catherine as their future queen, not in any official sense but in the deeper meaning of someone they wanted to follow and support. The crown of public affection had been claimed not through ambition or strategy, but through the simple power of being genuinely present with people in their moments of need. The final hour of the gala brought a quiet resolution that would be remembered long after the last guest departed. As the evening wound down, both women found themselves reflecting on a night that had changed everything while appearing to change nothing at all. The official records would show a successful royal event, but the deeper transformation that had occurred would reshape the monarchy's future in ways that neither protocol nor tradition could have predicted. Catherine stood near the ballroom's grand windows, looking out at the city lights while processing the unexpected turn the evening had taken. She had attended simply to support the royal family's charitable work, never imagining that her natural responses to the people she met would create such a significant shift in public perception. The weight of what had happened was beginning to settle on her shoulders. Albert, the veteran whose anxiety had been eased by Catherine's kindness, approached her one final time before leaving. Their conversation was brief but profound, as he thanked her not just for her compassion during his difficult moment, but for treating him as a person whose experiences mattered. His parting words carried the gratitude of an entire generation who had long felt overlooked by those in power. Maria, the student whose accident had led to a life-changing scholarship opportunity, also sought out Catherine before departing. The young woman's tears of gratitude were mixed with disbelief at how dramatically her circumstances had changed in just a few hours. She promised to honor the opportunity she had been given and to help other students facing similar challenges once she became a Dr. Sir David Mitchell spent the final hour conducting informal interviews with departing guests, gathering their honest assessments of the evening's events. The unanimous response was unprecedented in his experience covering royal functions. People didn't just express satisfaction with a well-organized event. They spoke about feeling inspired and hopeful about the future of royal leadership. The veteran journalist's final conversation of the evening was with Camilla herself, who demonstrated the grace and wisdom that had sustained her through decades of public life. She spoke honestly about the evening's unexpected developments, while maintaining complete dignity and respect for Catherine's natural gifts. Her response revealed a depth of character that explained how she had survived and thrived through so many challenges. Camilla acknowledged that she had witnessed something special in Catherine's interactions throughout the evening. Rather than expressing jealousy or resentment, she showed genuine admiration for her daughter-in-law's ability to connect with people in ways that couldn't be taught or scripted. Her maturity in recognizing and accepting the shift that had occurred demonstrated why she had earned respect over many years of dedicated service. The conversation between the two women near the end of the evening was perhaps the most significant moment of the entire night. Though it was witnessed by only a few close observers, Catherine approached Camilla with obvious concern about the attention she had received, worried that her actions might have overshadowed Camilla's important evening. Camilla's response revealed the wisdom of someone who understood that true leadership sometimes meant stepping back to allow others to shine. She assured Catherine that the evening had accomplished exactly what was needed, even if not in the way anyone had planned. The older woman recognized that the monarchy's future required the kind of authentic leadership that Catherine embodied naturally. The exchange between them was brief but meaningful, establishing a new understanding of their respective roles and the way forward for the royal family. Camilla would continue to serve with dedication and dignity, while Catherine would increasingly be recognized as the inspirational leader that the public was seeking for the future. As the last guests departed, the ballroom fell quiet except for the soft sounds of cleanup crews removing the evidence of the evening's celebration. The physical space would return to normal within hours, but the impact of what had occurred would resonate for years to come. The unofficial transfer of emotional leadership had been completed without drama or conflict, accomplished through the simple power of authentic character consistently demonstrated. The morning newspapers would struggle to capture the significance of what had happened. The headline events were straightforward: a successful royal gala, charitable donations announced, dignitaries honored. But the deeper story of leadership transition through genuine human connection would prove much more difficult to convey in traditional reporting formats. In the weeks and months that followed, the effects of that remarkable evening would become increasingly apparent. Catherine's approach to royal duties would become the new standard that people expected, while her ability to inspire positive change through authentic engagement would reshape public expectations of royal leadership entirely. The moment Camilla lost her crown was also the moment Catherine claimed it, not through ambition or calculation, but through the irresistible power of being genuinely present with people in their moments of need. The transformation had been so natural and authentic that it felt inevitable, as if the universe had simply recognized and validated what everyone present had witnessed: the emergence of a leader whose time had come.